I was not on the guest list, not in ink, not in pencil, not even as a passing thought. I found out my younger sister was getting married from a tagged photo on our cousin's Instagram. She was standing in a white gown, holding our mother's hand, glowing under golden lights. There were roses, a live band, my family smiling as if I had never existed. No one called, no one asked if I was okay. I had paid Megan's rent, held her hand through every breakdown, given up promotions to help her through school. But on her biggest day, I was not even a whisper in the room. So I did what they never expected. I stopped waiting to be chosen. I said yes to the man who had waited patiently for me to remember my worth. We flew to the Amalfi Coast, just us, no drama, no guilt, no family. I wore a crimson silk dress and let the sea breeze tangle my hair. I posted one photo from the deck of our yacht. No tags, no faces, just a caption. Not all families are worth RSVPing. 4 days later, Megan called me in tears. Her wedding had imploded, her mother-in-law had withdrawn everything, and somehow all eyes turned to me, the sister who never even received a save the date. But this is not a story about revenge. It is about quiet survival, about finally walking away from the rooms that taught you how to disappear. My name is Victoria Blake, and this is the story of how they tried to write me out, and I rewrote myself instead. I was 11 years old the first time I realized my mother looked through me instead of at me. It was a Saturday morning in Dallas, Texas, and Megan had a stomachache. She was curled on the sofa, cheeks pale, hands clutching her middle. And Mom sat beside her with a heating pad and a gentle hand on her forehead. I stood in the hallway doorway, holding the science project I had spent all week finishing for the school competition. My fingers were stained with paint, my shirt had a rip from leaning over the workbench too long. I waited for Mom to look up, to say something, anything, but she never did. All she said was, "Get your sister some chamomile tea, honey." That is how it always started. Small things, quiet erasures, a missed compliment, a forgotten school award. The way Megan's dance recitals got bouquets and family celebrations, while my academic achievements collected dust on the hallway shelf. Dad was around, sort of. He fixed the garage door when it broke, watched sports news, and took us to brunch once a month. But he was not the kind of father who stepped in. He was the kind who leaned back. When Mom said things like, "Megan has always had such a sensitive nature," or "Vic can handle herself. You know how capable she is," he would nod, sip his orange juice, and turn the page of his newspaper. By the time I reached high school, I stopped asking for things. I figured out how to get scholarships on my own, I completed my own financial aid forms, got a part-time position at the bookstore, and made sure Megan had help with her homework. I remember writing her college application while she was at a concert. She texted me from the back of someone's car saying she forgot the deadline was that night. I stayed up until 4 in the morning finishing it. She got in. I went to Yale. She went to Arizona State. My parents visited her 4 times during her freshman year. They came to my graduation once, late, and brought a card with $25 in it. I was not surprised. I learned by then to stop hoping for something different. After college, I moved to San Francisco. I built a career in wealth management, long hours, high pressure, tailored suits, even sharper instincts. I was excellent at it. I climbed fast, I made money, I bought my own apartment. I sent Megan money when she needed to break a lease, I paid the copay when Mom had hip surgery, I flew home for Christmas, I brought champagne and presents, and left feeling like a stranger in my own bloodline. But I did not say anything. I kept showing up, I kept trying. Then came my 31st birthday. I had planned nothing elaborate. I was not the type. But I took the day off work, reserved a table for 3 at a small French restaurant in Pacific Heights, and called my parents a week before to invite them. Mom sounded distracted. "Oh, that is next Saturday. I think your father has a golf appointment in the morning. Maybe we'll see how we feel." I told her I would hold the table for 7. She said she would let me know. They never showed up. At 7:15, I was still holding the menu, half reading it, pretending not to notice how the server kept glancing toward the empty chairs. I finally texted my mom. No reply. I opened Instagram out of habit and saw a post from Megan. She was at a spa resort outside Austin, laughing over a mimosa flight. The caption said, "Weekend getaway with the family." I stared at it for a long time. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, still wearing the emerald dress I had chosen for the occasion, and poured myself a glass of wine. One glass turned into two, then three. At some point, I took out my phone and scrolled through photos from Megan's birthday, 3 years earlier. They had rented out a rooftop venue. There were fairy lights and a jazz trio, a cake the size of a small table. Mom had worn her diamond studs, Dad gave a toast. Megan wore a silver jumpsuit and posed next to a giant metallic 27. I closed the album and turned off my phone. It was not the forgetting that hurt. It was the consistency, the quiet pattern of being left out, of being remembered only when needed, of being the one who always showed up but never got a place at the table. That was the night I stopped making excuses for them. I did not cry, I did not shout, I just let the silence sit. And in that silence, something in me shifted. The next morning, I woke up early, made espresso, and opened my email. Work things, numbers, deals, an investor meeting in the financial district. I moved through it all with mechanical precision, like slipping into an old uniform. But underneath the surface, I felt it. That strange weightlessness when something inside you has snapped and you are too calm about it. I opened Instagram, bad habit. It was just muscle memory at that point. I was not looking for anything, but there it was. A photo from Aunt Patricia. Megan stood in front of a full-length mirror at a bridal boutique in Houston, her hand clutching the bodice of a white lace gown. Her eyes were teary, dramatic, tilted just so. The caption said, "Our princess is going to be the most beautiful bride this August. So honored to be there for the big moment." August the 1st. Stared at the screen for a full minute before I registered the word. I blinked, then scrolled. There were more photos. Megan smiling with Mom, Megan surrounded by friends I didn't recognize. One shot showed her sipping Prosecco, a fake sash that read "Future Mrs. Sterling" draped across her shoulder. No tag, no mention of me. I texted my mother. "I just saw Patricia's post. Megan is getting married." No reply. I texted again. "When were you going to tell me?" The bubbles appeared for a second, then disappeared. I sat back on the couch, heart slowing, mind speeding up. This was not just forgetting. This was deliberate. A wedding is not a surprise. It is planned, it is funded, it is discussed for months, and they had kept it from me entirely. I opened Megan's profile, blocked. I closed the app, tossed my phone onto the table, and stared out the window at the traffic on Market Street. Horns, heat, the endless churn of people going somewhere. My phone buzzed. It was Harper. "Want tacos or therapy drinks tonight?" I sent back one word, "both." That evening, we met at our usual spot in the Mission. Harper was already 2 margaritas in by the time I arrived. Her lipstick was smudged, and she waved me over with both hands, tell me everything she said. I slid into the booth, told her about the Instagram post, the radio silence, the block. "She did not even text you?" asked wide-eyed. "I mean, that is not passive-aggressive. That is just surgical." She took a sip from her glass, leaned closer. "You know what this is, right? What you are too successful. They cannot control you anymore." I raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" she said. "You used to be the responsible one, the fixer. You paid for her apartment, you flew home for every holiday, you never made a scene. Now you are out here living in San Francisco, making 7 figures, dating Adrian Cole, and she is still stuck in Austin, playing princess with some guy who probably thinks avocado toast is a personality. They do not invite you because you remind them what they are not." I laughed despite myself. They do not invite you because you remind them what they are not. That felt too sharp to argue with, so I said nothing, just stared down at the swirling ice in my glass. "When is the wedding?" Harper asked. "August. That is all I know." She tapped her phone.
Hold up. I saw something on LinkedIn. I think her fiance's mom is Catherine Sterling, the real estate empire woman. She has money, like generational money. If Megan marries into that family, she will do anything to fit in. I nodded, feeling something hard settle in my chest. You are not invited because you do not fit the narrative, Harper added. You are the inconvenient truth. I looked at her. You have been hanging out with too many podcasters. She grinned. Facts are facts, babe. We clinked glasses and drank in silence for a while. Later that night, back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and checked Adrian's calendar. He had a business trip to London the second week of August, meetings with a development firm about a joint venture in Mayfair. He had asked me a few days ago if I wanted to come. I told him I would think about it. I checked my own schedule. One had 4 client presentations, a quarterly review, and a team retreat planned. I stared at the dates, then slowly reached for my phone. Still, no reply from Mom. I closed the laptop. The wedding would happen without me, and that used to be the part that broke me, that I was excluded, erased. But now, for the first time, I saw the outline of a choice. A door that had been shut was now irrelevant. I did not need to knock on it anymore. Instead, I started thinking about other doors and what might happen if I walked through one without asking permission. I did not make a plan, not at first. I just started packing a small suitcase. The next day, folding things into neat squares without overthinking. Business slacks, a black cocktail dress, 2 silk blouses, my favorite blazer, lipstick the color of confidence, my passport, just in case. I did not know where I was going yet, but I knew I could not stay in that version of my life any longer. Adrian had mentioned the trip to London weeks ago, meetings with a design firm about a Kensington redevelopment, dinner with potential investors, a stop by a private equity conference he had been invited to speak at. He had asked if I wanted to tag along. At the time, I had said maybe. I did not have a reason then, but now I did. When I told him I was coming, he did not ask why, just glanced up from his tablet, gave me a slow smile, and said, "Good, I was hoping you would say yes." We landed at Heathrow on a Wednesday morning. June was soft and gray in the air, the kind of mist that clung to your coat. Our car wound through the city while I watched the skyline shift into view, that stubborn London silhouette I once dreamed of living in when I was 20 and idealistic. The Corinthia was quiet, the kind of expensive that does not have to announce itself. Our suite was elegant and warm, bathed in light and marble and too many pillows. Adrian had a call lined up. 15 minutes after we arrived, I left him with his laptop and his third espresso and took a walk down the embankment, trying to shake the nerves buzzing just beneath my skin. I stopped at a bookshop, bought a novel I had no intention of reading, and let myself be invisible among the shelves. That was something London had always been good for, disappearing without vanishing. That evening, we had dinner reservations at a place in Mayfair. I could not pronounce the kind of restaurant that never listed prices and offered 15 types of olive oil. I wore the black dress I had packed last minute and tried to remind myself to breathe. "Adrian noticed you were quiet," he said once we sat down. "Not like you." I shrugged, just tired from work, from pretending things do not bother me. He did not push. He just nodded, reached for the wine list, then paused. "Do you want to talk?" "Not here," I said. He nodded again. We ate in near silence. The server kept checking and offering delicate questions about sauces and pairings. I barely touched my food. Later back at the hotel, I stood by the window with a glass of water and stared at the city lights like they owed me something. Adrian leaned against the doorway to the bedroom, tie loose, sleeves rolled. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" "I know." "Then say it." I turned toward him slowly. My voice was not sharp, it was not emotional, just level. "Megan is getting married in August." He blinked once. "You just found out on Instagram. Extraordinary." "Yeah." He waited. I let the silence hang before continuing. "They did not tell me, did not invite me. She blocked me last year after a disagreement and apparently decided that was permanent. My mom never said a word. I had to see it through someone else's phone, like an outsider. Adrian stepped further into the room. I am sorry. I nodded, not expecting more. Then I added, it is not even the wedding. It is everything before it. The pattern, the way I was always the fixer, the one they leaned on when they needed money or help or a place to stay. And now that she has some guy with a prestigious last name, I am disposable. You are not disposable, he said softly. No, I are inconvenient because I know the truth, because I remember who paid for Megan's first semester at Arizona State when Dad's business failed, because I remember writing her college essays and covering the copay when Mom had her hip surgery. I was the safety net, and now I am the embarrassment. Adrian crossed the room, stood next to me. You are never an embarrassment. I know that, but they do not, and I am tired of waiting for them to figure it out. I set the glass down. I am tired. I'm tired of asking to be let in, of trying to be good enough for people who only value me when I am silent and helpful. Adrian's eyes did not move from mine. Then, stop, he said. It's so easily like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I let that settle in the air between us. You know, he said quietly, you have spent your whole life twisting yourself into shapes to be accepted by people who refuse to see you. Maybe it is time you stop doing that. Maybe, I echoed. He reached for my hand, not dramatic, just grounding. I want something with you, Victoria. Something that does not require you to shrink, something where you do not have to prove yourself every single day. I did not breathe for a moment. What are you saying? He looked down like the words mattered more than the delivery. Would you want a life where you never have to ask to be seen? The question cut through the quiet like a thread pulled taut. It was not a proposal in the traditional sense. There was no ring, no kneeling, no sunset background or scattered rose petals, just a man and a choice. I did not need to think about it. Yes, one word, and something unspoken between us. Finally exhaled. We did not toast, we did not post a photo. He just kissed my forehead, then turned.
F the light while I stood a little longer by the window, the city did not look different, but I did. For once, I was not on the outside waiting to be invited in. I had finally chosen a door that was already open, and I walked through it. The Monday after we got back from London, I sat at my desk at Blackwell Capital and stared at the numbers on the screen like they were written in another language. Spreadsheets blurred, strategy decks blinked from the desktop, but none of it felt real. Not the quarterly forecast, not the team meeting at 9, not the Slack messages piling up from junior analysts asking for last-minute approvals. I closed my laptop. Then I opened a new email draft. Subject line, leave of absence request. Except I did not ask. I stated, effective immediately, I will be stepping away from my position at Blackwell Capital. This decision is not made lightly, but it is made clearly. No return date, no explanation beyond what they already knew, that I had been carrying too much for too long, that I had smiled through weekends, lost to pitch meetings, through skipped holidays, through being the only woman in rooms where everyone else measured themselves in golf handicaps and venture portfolios. I hit send, sat back, exhaled. Later that evening, Adrian walked into the kitchen while I was reheating leftover risotto and said, pack light. I turned for what he pulled out his phone, flipped it around. A hotel confirmation, a map, blue waters, curved white cliffs, Amalfi Coast. I blinked. Seriously? He shrugged, casual as ever. You need air, sunlight, distance. No better place than a cliffside villa with an infinity pool and no schedule. One smiled small at first, then wider when next Thursday. 12 days, just us, and no laptops. I stepped toward him. Did you plan this today? He tilted his head. I may have booked it a few days ago, just in case. You came back different from London. I laughed. You are either psychic or presumptuous. Both, probably. The next day, I told Harper. She squealed loud enough to make the barista at Blue Bottle flinch. Amalfi Coast? Oh, we are not playing around anymore. She reached into her oversized tote and pulled out a dress bag. You planned this? I planned for the day you stopped playing small.
She unzipped the bag to reveal a crimson silk slip dress, bias cut, deep back, high slit, unapologetically bold. It is from that designer I told you about, Valentina Ross, handmade, one of one. Harper, do not argue, just wear it. And please, for once in your life, do not try to blend in. This is not a trip for neutrals. I traced the fabric between my fingers. It felt like permission. She leaned in. This is not revenge. It is presence. Show up so fully, they choke on the silence you left behind. I hugged her harder than I expected. The week passed in a blur. I cleaned out my inbox, set my work phone to airplane mode, paid off the last of Megan's old credit card debt that still somehow sat in my name. One final tie snipped without ceremony. Adrian handled the flights, business class, window seats. He added a note to the itinerary labeled Sunset Photographer. When I asked, he just smiled. You will see. At the airport, I wore a cream linen set and oversized sunglasses, the kind of outfit I used to laugh at in magazines. Adrian carried nothing but a backpack and a paperback novel. We did not speak much in the lounge. We did not need to. Somewhere over the Mediterranean, he turned to me and said, I was thinking we should make this official. I raised an eyebrow. The trip? Us. My stomach fluttered, but I kept my face steady. Is this your version of a proposal? His grin was lazy. Sure. Would it scare you if it was? No. Would you say yes? Maybe. Then I will keep the maybe and work with that. The coastal air hit us like a slow exhale. The Amalfi Coast was bluer than the photos, wider, deeper, every corner curved into light.
Ila was perched on the edge of Positano white walls and terracotta shutters, an open-air terrace that looked like it had been carved out of a dream. I slipped into the crimson dress on our second night. No makeup, just gold hoops and bare skin. Adrian stood at the edge of the terrace, drink in hand, watching the horizon. When he turned and saw me, his expression changed. You look like closure and beginning all at once. I stepped out barefoot. The photographer he had hired was already there, discreet and professional. He did not pose us, just followed as we laughed, leaned into each other, moved with the sea behind us. That night, Adrian toasted to nothing specific. We clinked glasses under a sky that knew better than to interrupt. Later in the quiet, I lay in bed with the windows open, the sea breathing in and out. Somewhere in Texas, Megan was probably finalizing seating charts and florals. She was surrounded by guests and plans and a version of the life she always said she wanted. But I had something else. Not a wedding, not a perfect family. Just this stillness, this knowing, and a passport marked with a beginning no one saw coming. The mornings on the Amalfi Coast had their own rhythm. No alarms, no meetings, just the rustle of linen curtains and the soft call of seabirds outside our villa window. I would wake before Adrian, not out of habit, but because something in me could not stay asleep too long. Rest had become something different here, less escape, more arrival. On our third morning, I made espresso and drank it barefoot on the terrace while the sky shifted from pearl to gold. The air was warm but not heavy. The sea stretched wide, glittering and endless. Adrian wandered out an hour later, hair messy, shirt wrinkled, holding his phone and a box of fresh pastries he had walked into town to get. You looked like you needed lemon and honey, he said, kissing my shoulder. We did not speak much. We did not need to. Some connections do not sharpen in words. They soften in stillness. Later that afternoon, a sleek boat pulled up along the cliffside dock. It was not extravagant, but it was perfect. White hull, teak deck, clean lines. A local captain named Marco greeted us with a warm nod and a quiet smile. He had sun-darkened skin and a calmness that made it feel like nothing bad had ever touched the sea. Adrian helped me aboard, then handed Marco a small envelope. I did not ask what was in it. He just said, "Private route, please, sunset return." I wore the crimson dress, no makeup, just salt-sprayed hair and skin that had forgotten to worry. The fabric clung to me like it had always belonged there. Harker had been right. Some clothes were not for blending in. They were for declaration. We pulled away from the shore, cutting across the Tyrrhenian Sea like a silent secret. The wind danced around us. I stood at the bow, holding the railing, eyes fixed on the horizon. Adrian was behind me somewhere, his presence steady but quiet. He snapped a photo without asking. "Let me see." He held up the phone. The image was arresting. The crimson dress against the pale blue water, my back to the camera, shoulders bare, hair tangled in the wind. I did not look like someone waiting for approval. I looked like someone who had stepped into her own name. "Post it," he said gently. I hesitated, then opened Instagram. The caption came without effort. "Not all families are worth RSVPing for." I hit share, then closed the app. We spent the next hour sun-drenched and silent, sipping Prosecco and watching the coastline slide past in slow motion. At one point, Marco pointed out a cove where the cliffs curved like folded wings. Adrian leaned back on the cushioned bench, eyes half closed, hand resting on my knee. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For this, for not needing me to explain myself." He smiled. "You have already done the hard part. You stayed. When you should have left now, you are just catching up to your own freedom." We anchored in a quiet inlet and dove into the water, the cold, shocking at first, then exhilarating. We floated on our backs, fingers brushing the sun overhead, a soft white burn. I could not remember the last time I had felt my body move without tension. By the time we returned to the dock, the sun was low, the light thick and honeyed. Marco helped me off the boat like I was royalty. I thanked him in a voice I barely recognized as my own. It was steadier now, less cautious. Back at the villa, I showered and wrapped myself in a towel, scrolling absently through my phone while Adrian uncorked a second bottle of wine. My notifications had exploded. Likes, comments, messages, people I had not heard from in years were suddenly resurfacing. The photo had gone farther than I ever intended. A screenshot of it had landed in a private Facebook group for wedding professionals in Houston. From there, it found its way to an acquaintance of Megan's, then to a woman we both knew in college, then finally to someone named Isabel Sterling. The name struck me. I tapped her profile. Catherine Sterling's daughter, CEO of Sterling Properties, Christopher's sister. Isabel had tagged Catherine in a private thread with the caption, "Thought you would want to see this. Heard some interesting things about the Blake girl. Is Megan not marrying her brother?" I froze. Adrian looked up from the wine. "Everything okay?" I handed him the phone. He read it slow and careful, then looked up. "It begins." I nodded. Catherine Sterling was not just another mother of the groom. She was old Texas money, the kind of woman who vetted her son's fiancé like she was hiring a managing director. Reputation mattered to her, legacy more. And now she had questions about the sister no one had mentioned, about the family that had painted itself a little too neatly, about a caption that said more in 11 words than Megan had probably said in a year. Adrian set the phone down. "You did not mean to start a fire, did you?" "No, but I stopped apologizing for being the match." I stood, crossed to the terrace, and looked out over the water. The breeze picked up, catching the edges of my towel, and I held it tighter around me. Somewhere in Texas, Megan was planning centerpieces and final fittings, practicing how to say Sterling without sounding like she had rehearsed it her whole life. But she had forgotten something. Silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes it just means someone else is watching and waiting. Catherine Sterling read the caption 4 times before setting her phone down. She did not like being surprised. In her world, surprises cost money, headlines, and control. Control was what kept her name pristine across boardrooms and ballrooms alike. So, when someone whispered that her future daughter-in-law's estranged silhouette in a crimson silk dress, Catherine took notice. The first call she made was not to Megan. It was to her assistant. "Laura, pull every public record on Victoria Blake. Education, employment, property, published articles. Start with San Francisco, and pull Megan's file while you are at it." Laura did not ask questions. She never had to. By the end of the day, a folder landed on Catherine's desk at the Sterling Properties corporate office in Dallas. It was thick, clipped at the edges. She read every page, every resume line, every conference Victoria had spoken at, every headline that mentioned her name. Yale University, class of 2016, MBA with distinction, former director of wealth strategy at Blackwell Capital, currently on sabbatical. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Then she flipped to Megan's file. Arizona State University, graduated 2019, degree communications, GPA average, a few marketing internships, including one at the Sterling Group, which she had acquired with some charm and a padded resume. Catherine frowned. She remembered that internship. Megan had said she was from a private liberal arts college in the Northeast, claimed she transferred mid-degree due to family circumstances. There was even a fake alumni pin on her blouse the first time they met. Catherine reached for her desktop, opened the company's server, and pulled up archived onboarding files. It took less than a minute to find it. An email dated August 2022 from Megan Blake to HR. Attached, please find my updated resume. I have included my academic history from Ashford College in Connecticut, I believe. The Sterling Group values discretion and legacy, and I want to make sure I represent both fully. There was no Ashford College in her academic record, because there was no Ashford College at all. Catherine clicked through to the attachments. The file was amateur, a template resume, filled with inflated titles and fabricated internships. She scrolled back to Megan's onboarding photo, polished, poised, smiling just a little too wide. She sat back and pressed her fingers together. Someone had sold her a story, and Catherine hated being sold something she did not vet herself. The next morning, she called her son. Christopher answered on the second ring. "Hey, Mom, can you stop by the house this evening? We need to talk privately." "Sure. Everything okay?" "Just some pre-wedding housekeeping." When he arrived, she was in the library, sipping Earl Grey and waiting beside a folder she had not touched since breakfast. She did not offer him anything to drink, just gestured for him to sit. "What is going on?" Christopher asked. "Tell me what you know about Megan's family." His face twitched. "She is close with her mom, distant from her dad, says she lost touch with her sister years ago." Catherine nodded. "That is one version. There is another. Yes, one that includes a very present, very successful sister named Victoria, whose career is not only impressive, but verifiable." Christopher blinked. "Wait, Victoria? Like the woman in the photo everyone is talking about? The one in Italy?" "Yes, that is Megan's sister." "It appears so. Why would she lie about that?" "You tell me." Christopher rubbed his temples. "She always said things were complicated, that Victoria had cut ties, that they were not close. Did she mention where she went to college? Some small school in Connecticut, I think. She said she transferred. I never thought to Ashford College. Yeah, maybe." Catherine opened the folder and handed him the printout. "There is no such institution. Not accredited, not recognized, possibly fabricated." Christopher scanned the document, lips tightening. "You are telling me she lied about her degree? She lied about more than that." He dropped the paper on the table. "This is a mess." Catherine did not blink. "It is a warning, and I do not take warnings lightly. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to talk to her. I want you to ask her to explain, and I want you to think very carefully about the kind of family you are attaching yourself to." Christopher leaned back, stunned. "We are getting married in 4 weeks. Then you should be certain." She did not say anything more. He left 15 minutes later, folder in hand. Catherine stood at the window and watched his car pull away. Then she turned back to her desk and opened her laptop. She typed Victoria Blake into the search bar. She was not done watching, not yet. I woke up to sunlight slicing across the sheets and a dozen new messages lighting up my phone. Notifications blurred across the screen. Names I had not seen in years, blinking back at me. Cousins, high school classmates, even one of Megan's old sorority sisters from Arizona State. They were not asking questions. They were making confessions. "Did not know you two were not speaking. You look incredible. Just saw your post." Hat, dress, that confidence. "Amazing families are complicated. I get it. You deserve peace." The tone had shifted, not pity, not curiosity, something closer to reverence, like they had all witnessed a resurrection and did not quite know what to do with it.
Adrian was still asleep, one arm thrown over his eyes, chest rising and falling in the slow rhythm of someone completely unbothered. I slid out of bed, pulled on a robe, and stepped onto the terrace with my espresso. The Amalfi Coast shimmered beneath the morning haze, white rooftops catching the sun like they were holding it hostage. The air was still humming. My phone buzzed again, a message from Aunt Clara. "Honey, I do not know what is happening, but I just want you to know I am thinking of you. No one deserves to be left out like that." I did not answer. Instead, I opened my gallery and chose 3 photos. One of Adrian and me on the boat, laughing with wind-slicked hair, one of us having dinner on the terrace, wine glasses mid-toast, and a short video of the sun melting into the water, casting everything in a shade of gold that did not feel real. I stitched them together and uploaded. Caption, "I choose to live, not to retaliate." Posted it. It did not take long. Within an hour, the comments rolled in. Friends, strangers, the algorithm doing what it does best. But then came the text from my cousin Rebecca. "I had no idea they did not invite you. That is so wrong." From my Uncle James. "You always carried more than your share. We saw it. We just did not say anything." And from someone I had not heard from since Megan's graduation party. "Megan is freaking out. I do not think you realize what you have started." I set the phone down and sipped my espresso. The wind picked up a little, brushing my cheek like it had something to say. Adrian joined me 15 minutes later, shirtless, squinting into the sun. "You are famous again," he murmured, nodding toward my phone. "Not the kind of famous I planned for." "You did not plan it at all." "Exactly." He sat beside me, took my espresso, sipped it without asking. "Any regrets?" I thought for a second, only that I waited this long to stop playing small. Later that afternoon, I received a message from someone I had not expected, Camille, one of Megan's old college friends, the kind who always hovered just close enough to benefit from proximity, but never close enough to know anything real. Her message was brief. "She is unraveling. Just thought you should know." I did not respond, but I did reread it. Unraveling. It was the word I had always feared would apply to me back when I held everyone else together. But it was not me fraying this time. It was the image Megan had curated for years. The perfect younger daughter, the polished bride-to-be, the one who did not need a sister because she had everything under control. Turns out, that image was thinner than we all thought. By evening, another message came in, this one from my younger cousin Marcus. "Just spoke to your mom. She is trying to keep things quiet, but Megan is losing it. She thinks you are going to ruin the wedding. Said she has never felt so betrayed." I stared at the words, ruin the wedding, betrayal, as if absence could be that loud, as if living well was an act of violence. Adrian glanced at me from across the room. "Problem?" "No, just family." He raised an eyebrow. "The messy or the manipulative kind?" "Both." I went back to the terrace and sat on the stone bench. The sky was starting to change again, soft pinks brushing against the edges of the horizon. The town below buzzed with quiet motion. Tourists wandered, locals closed shop for the day. But here, above it all, time felt like it had paused just long enough for me to breathe. Then came the final message from my cousin Elise. "Megan is spiraling. She thinks you planned all this. She said you are trying to destroy her. But honestly, I do not think she realizes how OCH of this she did to herself. Just be careful. You struck a nerve deeper than you think." I did not answer. I just sat there listening to the wind rise again, louder this time, almost like applause in a ballroom. Just outside of Austin, the morning light filtered through crystal chandeliers, catching on the edges of perfectly arranged centerpieces that would never see guests. Servers stood still beside untouched tables. Musicians packed up their instruments without a sound. Catherine Sterling had arrived at the venue at 8 sharp, wearing a charcoal suit, no makeup, no jewelry except her watch. She did not ask for coffee. She did not greet the coordinator. She walked straight to the head of the planning team and said, "Shut it down." The planner blinked. "Excuse me?"
The reception, the banquet, the floral wall, the 5-tier cake, cancel all of it, strip it to family only. She did not wait for questions. Catherine never did. By 9:30, the caterers were folding tablecloths. The photographer was reassigned to the ceremony only. Guests received discreet emails blaming an unexpected change in logistics. Inside the bridal suite, Meghan was sitting in her robe, makeup halfway done, hair curled and pinned in soft waves. Her phone buzzed non-stop, but her hands stayed still on her lap. When the wedding planner stepped in and quietly explained that the reception was no longer happening, Meghan blinked once, then again. What do you mean no longer happening? Your future mother-in-law has pulled the funding. She has requested a scaled-back ceremony with only immediate family. No dinner, no music, no press. Meghan stared at her own reflection for a full 5 seconds before whispering, "She said she loved the design. She signed off on the tasting." Yes, but something changed. Meghan stood slowly, walked to her phone, and opened the group thread. Dozens of texts, questions from friends, confusion from vendors, silence from Christopher. She dialed her mother. "Why are you not doing anything?" Diane's voice came quiet and brittle. "Honey, it is Catherine's call. We do not have the money to cover what she is backing out of. You said this was under control. I thought it was. I told you Victoria would ruin this." There was a pause on the other end. This is not about Victoria. This is about something Meghan did. But Meghan did not hear that, or maybe she refused. She threw her phone onto the velvet bench, mascara smudging as she pressed her fingers against her eyes. An hour later, in a small chapel behind the main venue, a wedding took place with only 18 people seated. No flowers beyond the altar, no aisle runner, no pianist. Just Christopher, his face unreadable, standing beside a minister as Meghan walked toward him in a dress that suddenly looked heavier than it had hours ago. He did not say much, neither did she. When they said their vows, she stumbled, not over the words, but over the silence between them. At that very moment, 400 miles away, I was sitting in a cafe in Positano, the breeze warm on my arms, a cappuccino half finished beside me. Adrian had gone to pick up ferry tickets for a day trip to Capri. I was scrolling absent-mindedly when I got the alert. Lux Living had published their summer edition. I clicked the link without thinking. There I was, the Amalfi photo, the crimson dress, my back to the camera. The caption, "Power without apology." It was not a feature on me, just a photo accompanying an article about quiet reinvention. But my name was in the credits. Photo courtesy of Adrian Cole, location Amalfi Coast, subject Victoria Blake. My stomach twisted, not from shame, from knowing that image, that single captured moment, had made it farther than I ever intended, farther than the Blake family dinner table, farther than Meghan's carefully curated guest list. I did not share it. I did not post a reaction. I just sat there, phone screen dimming. Ang in my palm, heartbeat even. Back in Austin, whispers were starting. Aunt Janet leaned over to Uncle Mike during the ceremony and murmured, "Did you see that picture of the sister? She is not here. No, she is not." And the mother's face. "Have you seen it? I think something is wrong in the bridal suite." After the vows, Meghan pulled Christopher aside. "Why did you not say anything? About your mom? About canceling the reception?" He shrugged. "She told me last night, said she had her reasons. I figured you would talk to her. You are supposed to stand up for me. Maybe I am tired of defending things that do not hold up." Her lips parted, stunned. He did not look angry, just done. She turned away, hands trembling, and saw her phone lighting up again. This time it was Camille. "You did not tell me your sister was a feature model? Now is this your version of cutting her out? It is not a good look." Meghan stared at the message, then at her reflection. Somewhere, someone had posted the article, then another, then screenshots. And just like that, the story shifted. The wedding became less about a union and more about an omission.
The question was not, where was the sister? It was why she was not there. And the answer was written all over Megan's face. The silence in the bridal suite after the guests left was louder than the ceremony itself. Megan sat on the edge of the love seat, still in her gown, bouquet wilted beside her, mascara smudged in the corners of her eyes. Her phone lit up again and again. Notifications, missed calls, messages she did not want to read. Everyone had questions, and none of the answers made her look good. Catherine had said nothing to her after the ceremony, just a curt nod, then a quiet word to Christopher before leaving the chapel with her assistant in tow. No congratulations, no photos, no speech. Christopher had offered to drive Megan home, but she refused. She said she needed a moment. What she really meant was that she needed to figure out how to undo something that could not be undone. She scrolled through the latest posts, and there it was again. My photo, the one on the bow of the boat on the Amalfi Coast, crimson dress, sea behind me, arms stretched slightly, like I was not holding anything at all. It was not even the original post this time. It was a screenshot, edited with text over it. When you erase people, they do not disappear. They evolve. Megan dropped the phone into her lap, face pale. That night, just past midnight, my phone rang. I was half asleep. The soft rustle of waves outside the window of our Amalfi villa like a lullaby. Adrian stirred beside me but did not wake. I reached across the bed, saw her name, and for a moment considered letting it go to voicemail. I did not. I answered and said nothing. The silence on the other end was not empty. I could hear her breathing, uneven and tense. Then softly, "Why did you do this?" My voice was calm. Do what? The post, the dress, the magazine. You knew it would get back to them. You knew Catherine would see it. I sat up in bed, feet touching the cool tile floor. You are upset because people finally saw me. I am upset because you made my wedding about you. I laughed once quietly. You did not invite me. You pretended I did not exist. And now that I am simply living, I am the problem? You humiliated me. No, Megan, I lived my life. You are humiliated because the lie unraveled, because the story you told was not built to hold. She went quiet, but I could still hear her breath hitch. Catherine canceled the reception. My dress did not even get photographed. Half the guests left early. You do not understand what you cost me. I shook my head slowly. You cost yourself that. You lied about who you were, about me, about everything. I did not ruin your day. I just refused to stay invisible so you could shine without shadow. She sniffed, sharp and shaky. It was not supposed to go like this.
No, it was supposed to go exactly like this because you built something hollow, and when someone knocked gently, it collapsed. She was crying now. I could hear her try to stifle it, could imagine her wiping her face in the dark so no one nearby would notice. Still trying to preserve the picture, still trying to control the frame. I did not want it to be like this between us, she whispered. Then you should not have blocked me. You should not have lied. You should not have let Mom pretend I did not matter. Her voice cracked. I thought maybe if I had one thing that was just mine. You always had that. You had everything. Attention, support. No one ever questioned your softness. I gave you space, Megan. I even gave you silence. But I am done giving pieces of myself to people who do not know what they are holding. There was a pause. Then she asked quieter than before. So what now? I do not know, but I am not the one who needs to fix it. You hate me? No, I do not hate you. Then what do you feel? Nothing, I said. And that is how I know I am finally free. She did not respond after a few moments. The call ended. I did not cry. I did not throw the phone. I just sat there. The breeze from the open window brushing against my skin like a benediction. I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. Adrian appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. That was her? Yeah? You okay? Better than I expected. He reached for my hand, grounding me in a way I had not realized I needed. Back in bed, I scrolled through my messages. Harper had sent 3 photos,
all screenshots of the Luxe Living preview layout. My photo was now the cover for their September edition. The title across the image read, "Redefined Grace." I stared at it for a long time. Then I turned the screen off. Adrian touched my arm. They published it? Yeah. What did they say? Nothing. I have not already said to myself. You gonna tell your family? No. You gonna post it? No. He paused. Why not? Because it does not matter if the world sees it. It only matters that she did. He nodded once, understanding, always understanding. I lay back down, eyes open to the ceiling. The stars above the Amalfi Coast were hidden behind clouds, but the wind carried something in it, not applause this time, something quieter. The transition back to San Francisco felt softer than I expected. The air was warmer, thicker, more familiar. The sound of cars on Market Street, the smell of roasted espresso on every corner, the slow afternoon light that settled over my neighborhood like a blanket. I unpacked my suitcase slowly, not because I was avoiding anything, but because I no longer felt rushed. The crimson dress went into the back of the closet, folded carefully inside tissue paper. Not a costume, not a trophy, just a reminder. Within a week, I signed the lease on a small office space in Hayes Valley. It was not flashy, just clean white walls, big windows, and the long walnut desk I had had my eye on for years. I called it Blake Advisory. The tagline was simple: we help women build what no one thought they could. By the end of the month, I had 4 clients, all women, one launching a line of sustainable fashion, one building a fintech platform for small business owners, one starting a foundation for single mothers re-entering the workforce, and one restructuring her family's legacy business. I met with them over coffee in the office, on video calls. I listened more than I spoke. I did not pitch myself. I did not need to. Words spread faster than I imagined. Luxe Living's feature had cemented a version of me in people's minds that I had not even fully grown into. Suddenly, I was aspirational, clean lines, quiet defiance, redefined grace. But I was not performing anymore. At a networking event downtown, I met a woman named Cameron Shore. She ran a boutique venture capital firm that focused on women-led startups. She had short, silver hair, wore a black jumpsuit, and introduced herself with a handshake firm enough to suggest she was tired of being underestimated. We sat on a rooftop patio drinking iced tea while the city hummed below us. After 15 minutes of trading ideas, she leaned back and asked, "So be honest, are you the fiancé of Adrian Cole or just the face of a very compelling public narrative?" I did not blink. "I am me." She smiled. Good answer. She offered me a consulting contract 3 days later. The next morning, I got the email, subject, meeting request from Catherine Sterling to victoria@blakeadvisory.com. Victoria, I would like to speak with you if you are available. I will be in San Francisco next week, Wednesday afternoon. My assistant can coordinate. No agenda, just a conversation. Best, CS. I read it twice, then closed my laptop. I did not reply immediately. I was not sure if it was curiosity or strategy that drove her to reach out. I was not sure it mattered, but something in the tone of that message struck me. No apology, no explanation, just an opening. That night, I told Adrian over dinner. "She wants to meet," I said, passing him the roasted vegetables. "Catherine," the first nodded. "What for?" She did not say. "You going to do it?" "I do not know yet." He chewed thoughtfully. "You do not owe her anything." "I know." He paused. "But maybe she is not looking for something owed. Maybe she is trying to see what she missed." I considered that, then shrugged. "I will think about it." The next morning, I replied to the email. "Wednesday works. My office, 2 p.m." I kept it brief, polite, measured. The day came quickly. I wore a navy suit and a white blouse, no jewelry, no makeup except lip balm. I wanted to meet her as I was, not as a symbol, not as a headline, just as myself. At 1:59, she arrived. Catherine Sterling was taller than I remembered from photos, impeccably dressed, naturally charcoal gray blazer, sharp black heels, no wedding ring. She shook my hand like we were negotiating terms.
Thank you for meeting me. Of course. We sat. I poured us both water. She did not touch hers. After a moment of silence, she said, I did not come here to apologize. I nodded. I did not expect you to. But I came because I think I misjudged the picture, and now I want to understand the frame. That was the first time I considered that maybe some people did not change because of confrontation. Maybe they changed because of clarity. She looked around my office, took in the photos of clients on the walls, the soft white couch in the corner, the stack of business cards on my desk. You have built something here. I have. That is not easy, especially with your last name. I smiled faintly. That is why I use my first. She almost smiled. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded printout. It was the Lux Living article. The cover, my photo. She laid it on the table between us. They got one thing wrong, she said. What? This was not Grace Redefined. This was Grace Reclaimed. I did not answer. She stood. I will not take more of your time. Just know I see you now, and I do not ignore what I see. I nodded. She left without shaking my hand again, and I sat there for a long moment, listening to the quiet return. The light outside had softened into gold when I finally stood and locked the door behind her. For the first time in a long time, I was not overwhelmed by the noise of what came next. There was no anxious energy, no need to dissect every word of the conversation. I just felt clarity, weightless and precise. Later that night, after Adrian had fallen asleep beside me, I reached for my phone and checked my messages. There it was, a text from Megan, time-stamped 11:23 p.m. A single image, loaded slowly, followed by a sentence. It was a newborn, tiny and pink and bundled in hospital linens. Her face was a miniature of Megan's, lips parted as if she were sighing. NTO, the world, do you want to meet your niece? No punctuation, no apology. Just that I let the screen dim in my hand, the glow fading as I stared at the ceiling for a moment. I felt the familiar tug of guilt, that instinctual part of me that still longed for connection, but it did not pull hard enough. I did not reply. Instead, I turned off the phone and pressed it beneath my pillow, like hiding it would soften the question. The next morning came quietly. Sunlight filtered through our bedroom window, and the scent of brewed coffee drifted from the kitchen. Adrian had left me a sticky note on the counter. Had early meetings, love you, P.S. You were incredible yesterday. I smiled, poured myself a mug, and walked to the window. Outside San Francisco was already humming to life. A jogger passed by with her golden retriever. A delivery truck rumbled down the street. I breathed in, grounded and steady. At the office, I was reviewing client strategy notes when an assistant from Catherine's team emailed me. She wanted to confirm a second meeting. I did not hesitate this time. I told them to come in on Friday. I was not playing hard to get. I was just no longer trying to prove anything. Catherine arrived that afternoon, precisely at 2. She wore no jewelry except a slim silver watch. Her clothes, a soft beige this time. She looked around the office again, but now there was a quiet attentiveness to her gaze. I read more of your writing, she said, as soon as we sat down. Your post from March about dignity and silence. I knew the one she meant. I had written it on a plane back from a conference in New York, trying to make sense of why walking away sometimes felt like winning. It stayed with me, Catherine said. Most people write for applause. You wrote for truth. I did not respond. I want you to lead something, she continued, a new wing of Women Forward. We have been considering it, but this time I am making the ask clear. I want you to head the initiative, design it, drive it, own it. And Megan, she will find out when it is public. I stared at her for a long moment, watching her face. There was not a trace of doubt, not a flicker of manipulation, just calculation, precision. She had done her homework, and now she was investing where she saw results. Why me? Catherine leaned forward. Because everyone else I have worked with wants to be seen. You know how to make others feel seen, and that is rarer than any Ivy League credential.
I thought about the years I spent working in the background, drafting other people's pitches, coaching them through media interviews, watching them rise while I stayed invisible. Maybe that was the training I never asked for, but needed. You are asking me to walk back into a space that once erased me? I said quietly. No, she corrected. I am asking you to rewrite the entire architecture of that space. The offer stayed with me all evening. Adrian watched me from across the dinner table. You are thinking hard, he said. Catherine wants me to lead a national initiative. Do you want to? I think I do. Then say yes. It is not that simple. Why not? Because she is Megan's mother-in-law. Because this puts me back in their orbit. Adrian reached for my hand. Or it puts you in charge of your own gravity. You get to decide who orbits you now. The words landed in me like a stone dropped into calm water. The ripple moved slowly, but it moved deep. I opened my laptop and wrote back, I accept. Let us meet Monday to discuss next steps. Then I opened a draft blog post, one I had started weeks ago but never finished. The title was simple, When They Finally See You. I wrote, not for sympathy, not for revenge, but for anyone who had ever been made invisible by the people they loved most. I did not name names. I did not need to. By the end of the night, the post was live. By morning, it had been shared over 5,000 times. And sometime, around noon, I check.
I rephoned my phone again. Megan's message was still there, the picture still untouched. I did not respond, but this time, I did not feel guilty. I just whispered to myself, she sees me now, and that is enough. The rain started that morning without warning, soft, steady, almost apologetic. I stood by the window of my apartment in Pacific Heights, watching the droplets gather along the edge of the glass, then trail down in crooked lines. I had not seen rain in weeks. In some ways, it felt like a kind of blessing. I made my espresso slower than usual, letting the machine hiss while I stared at the phone on the counter. No new messages, no missed calls. The silence was not haunting anymore. It felt earned. There was a time not too long ago when silence from my family made me feel like I did not exist. Now, it simply meant I had nothing left to prove. I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. My blog dashboard was still up from the night before. More shares, more comments. Women I had never met were writing in from Ohio, Vermont, even as far as Alaska. They said things like, I did not realize how badly I needed to hear this. My sister did the same to me. I thought I was alone. I cried reading this, not because I was sad, because I finally felt seen. That last one made my throat tighten. I did not write for applause, but I did write so someone else would not have to sit alone in a story they did not ask to be part of. After breakfast, I pulled out the old leather box I kept in the back of the closet. Inside were pieces of my past I had not touched in years. Photos from college, notes from Megan when we were kids, one tiny silver bracelet from our grandmother that used to be mine, then became hers, and was eventually returned in a silent envelope after the funeral. I held the bracelet for a long time. It was light, insignificant in my palm, heavy everywhere else. Eventually, I put it back. I was not sentimental anymore, not about the wrong things. In the early afternoon, I walked to the nearby bookstore, the one Adrian and I used to frequent before everything changed. The clerk recognized me. "You're the one from the article, right?" the woman behind the counter asked, tilting her head. "What article?" "That online piece about women rebuilding after betrayal. Your photo is featured." I blinked. I did not know it had been picked up beyond Lux Living. I had not authorized that, but I just smiled. Yes, I guess that is me. She beamed. It helped me a lot. I am not talking to my mother anymore, and I have been trying to feel okay about that. "You are okay," I said gently. "Sometimes we survive people we love. That does not make us cruel. It just makes us honest." Later that evening, I poured a glass of wine and returned to the same chair by the window. The rain had stopped, and everything outside looked rinsed clear, stripped of anything false. My phone lit up once more. Still the same photo, the baby girl still swaddled in hospital blankets.
eyes closed in that way only newborns know. I had not responded for days. Megan had not followed up. Maybe she expected nothing, or maybe she expected me to show up anyway. She always had. I let the photo linger on my screen. I studied the tiny mouth, the delicate fists, the full weight of life wrapped in pink fleece. She was innocent, and so was I once. I whispered a quiet goodbye under my breath, to the child, to the years that formed Megan and me, to the woman I used to be who thought love had to be earned through silence and sacrifice. Then I did the only thing left. I deleted the message, not out of anger, not out of pride, but because some endings need to be chosen, especially by the one who was never given the power to start anything. The next morning, I launched the first phase of our Women Forward mentorship. My inbox was flooded with applications, young women, single mothers, first-generation entrepreneurs, dreamers who had never been told they mattered. Now they were hearing it from me, and the difference was this time I believed it too. My life did not look like Megan's Instagram stories. It did not come with themed parties or curated applause, but it was mine, honest, earned. Enough to anyone listening right now who knows what it is like to be the quiet one, the overlooked one, the name left off the list. You are not forgotten, you are not too late, and you are not small. If someone chose to erase you from their story, maybe it is time to write your own. If you have ever had to rebuild from silence, I hope you will share that story. There is power in telling the truth and healing in being heard. Leave a comment. Let others know they are not alone. Hit like if this found you and you needed it. And if you are ready to stay for more journeys like mine, subscribe. We are not done yet.